Hello and welcome
Hello.
to Odds on Serie A Matchday 14 after the Derby d'Italia. Dani, a bit disappointing. We have Napoli, Inter, Matt Sarri in the middle. How are you?
Yes, all good. Thank you, Edu. And it's been so far a good week for Italian football. We qualified the second team to the last 16 of the Champions League. Of course, Lazio, Napoli are almost there. Inter and a draw in Lisbon. Milan are in a difficult situation. Let's see what happens with the Europa League teams tonight. But yes, of course, the Serie A, it's more alive than ever. 1-1 in Derby Italia has prevented normally these sort of games a little bit dull or a little bit boring. I think this one actually was even worse than what we expected.
And we have Salernitana with the first victory of the season. Now every single team in Serie A knows how to win a football game. So guys, remember to follow Serie A with us. Daniele Fisichella is the person who knows more about Serie A in YouTube. And if you like our show, don't forget to press the like and subscribe. Let's go on with the show. Time to start with our analysis, Danny. Of course, before, just remind you that you have the possibility to sign up with 1xBet and get an exclusive welcome bonus of 130% using our promo code. You have the link in the description. Danny, the Serie A Matchday 14 kicks off on Friday with a very interesting game. Monza, Juve in the north of Italy is always uncomfortable. I think playing in Monza is a very good team since they got promoted last season, 4 undefeated games since the trip to Rome. Let's see how Juventus reacts after the good draw. I said to you last week that perhaps a draw was good for both sides, but now, of course, they have to beat Monza, which could be a tricky one. Perhaps we see the classic scrappy victory for Juve, 1-0, boring game.
It could be. I mean, I counted the games since Allegri returned to Juventus bench in 2021. 65% of all the league games have seen less than 2-5 goals scored. They won 17 games 1-0. It's becoming, a habit. But to be fair, you're absolutely right. They are the happiest of the two sides with the 1-1 against Inter because it means they can keep in touch with Inter, not having the same quality of Inter, but being only 2 points behind. And considering that in January they can strengthen the squad, they'll probably add a couple of players, considering they're missing Pogba and Fagioli, and also don't play in Europe. So when it comes to February, March, if they stay in touch with Inter, I think they are in with a chance. The big question mark is how much they can continue to play that bad or not very well and get results. Juventus have got a habit of winning against smaller sides. They've done it in the previous 2 years, and then normally they win 2-0. But this is going to be a tough challenge, not only because Monza is good defensively as well. They got the 4th best defense of the league, but they only lost 1 game at home in the last 9, and this season they are unbeaten at home. But they don't just sit back and defend. The offensive numbers, in fact, for Monza are similar to the ones for Juve. They are 5th for shots in Serie A, 4th for possession. They can create chances. Perhaps they lack a goal scorer. In fact, their top scorer is Colpani, midfielder, with 6 goals. But I think Palladino, who, by the way, last season beat Juventus twice, home and away, it won't be easy. He'll have something prepared for Juve. I mean, the stats suggest this is not going to be a high scoring game anyway. So I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals, 182.
I can understand you, Danny, why you go for an under in this game in the north of Italy. Let's go to the coast. Genoa, Empoli, important game for the relegation battle. Right now, Empoli 10 points in the bottom 3. Genoa 14, 4 points more. They lost to Frosinone, conceding in the very last minute, but at home they've been strong. They won 3 out of the last 4. And that defeat was against Milan. You remember Giroud as a goalkeeper in unlucky circumstances. Danny, Empoli, What happened to them? They scored 3 goals finally, but they don't grab a point. Crazy.
It's impossible to explain. And Empoli, the worst attack of Serie A, yet they scored 3 goals. So now they score 8 goals in total, and the worst defense, 25 goal conceded alongside Salernitana and Cagliari. And I think that's where the problem is a team that it can only win 2-0. All the wins for them have been 2-0. If they do concede, they don't win. And some of the goals they concede against Sassuolo, they're very, very silly, especially the last one when they left Berardi totally marked on stoppage time. And yes, they lost once again. They kept 4 clean sheets, Empoli, in the last 8 games. But yes, if they do concede, they don't win. They got also the worst away defense, the Toscan 14 goal conceded, still without their best player, Tommaso Baldanzi. Is a very young side, Empoli, inexperienced, and you can tell the difference of having or not having Vicario in goal, the man who saved in so many points in the last 2 seasons. When it comes to Genoa, unlucky against Frosinone. I think they should have at least get a draw. They hit the bar. They conceded in stoppage time through a deflection. Should have won based on expected goals, to be fair, against Frosinone. So I think they were unlucky to lose. At home, as you mentioned, they've been all right, but they got a problem with injuries and with goal scoring, because Retegui, who scored 4 goals so far this season, is going to be probably back next week. Gudmundsson, who's been so prolific as well, is going to be out. Strootman in midfielder is going to be out. So it's going to be tricky this one for Genoa, who, by the way, midweek they play Lazio in Coppa Italia. So there are a couple of midweek games, and there's a tough schedule for some of the lower league, mid-table teams. So I will talk about this a little bit more in details. I can't see too many goals scored here. I'm going to go for under 1.25 goals in the second half, 190. That means if there's only 1 goal scored in the second half, you win half a stake. No goals in the second half, you win the full stake.
Next game on Saturday, we have 3. Interesting to talk about Lazio Cagliari, because in the league they are bad in the 11th spot. Difficult to understand the defeat against Salernitana, despite taking the lead with a penalty converted by Immobile. But in the Champions League they won. They are qualified. This is very positive. And they play against a dangerous team right now, Danny. Cagliari, very positive, getting good results in the last 5 games. They only lost in Turin against Juventus.
Yes, they did. And no away wins, though, for Cagliari. Only 4 goals scored. They do have an issue, I think, traveling away to top sides. They lost in Bologna, Bergamo, Florence, Turin. They are competitive, but yes, I think they do much better at home recently, and they do find much many more goals when they play in the Sardinia Arena. For Lazio, great reaction against Celtic. They managed to pick themselves up. Let's see if this is the turning point of the season. They sensed the opportunity the Celtic were pushing high a little bit too much, leaving a little bit of gaps, and they were patient and they exploited them. Perhaps Sarri's formation at the beginning was wrong, because as soon as he put on Immobile and Pedro, the game completely changed. It's quite a luxury to have somebody score over 200 goals on the bench like Immobile, but I'm sure he wants to start every single game. If he comes on, though, in the last 30 minutes, he can be a real threat. But if he's well, he will start, and he should start. They just need to start winning at home, Lazio. They only scored 7 goals so far. This is the worst start of the season in a decade in the league. And there are questions about their mental fragility, the nerves, the way they squander points against Salernitana, against Lecce, and other games. They are not quite they're not quite there, they're not quite focused. But let's see, because the win against Celtic was absolutely crucial. 7 points for Cagliari in the last 4 games, but they only got 1 point less compared to the previous 20 games in Serie A. So they have improved in the last month. Lazio, by the way, they are unbeaten in 16 games against the Sardinian, 2 consecutive clean sheets at home. And Lazio got a tough schedule, because they host Genoa, as we mentioned, in Coppa Italia on Wednesday. A few injuries: Casale, Romagnoli, Zaccagni, Luis Alberto, by the way, returns from the suspension. Again, I don't see Lazio sweeping Cagliari. Under 2.5 goals for me, 194.
Another under. Hello, Omid. Hello, Rick from Canada. Remember to tell us your tips and your comments. We want to know your opinion about the games, about Milan, for instance. What do you think about Milan game in the Champions League against Dortmund? Now they are back to San Siro to play against Frosinone. Their run is very bad for Milan. They got a very lucky victory against Fiorentina, probably undeserved. They still have so many injuries and many problems, Danny, but this is a tricky one because Frosinone, they've been so positive during the season, 10th in the standings. It's true that they haven't won away from home, but this Frosinone knows to score. It's an uncomfortable team.
Yes, it is an uncomfortable team to play against because they're young, they are athletic, they are fearless, and they won 3 of the last 4 in all competitions. Although the victory against Genoa was not totally deserved, they only failed to score in 3 games so far this season, all away. Udinese, Roma, and Inter, but in all of these 3 games, they had chances. They only kept 1 clean sheet so far in Serie A, Frosinone, but I think it's justifiable considering the way they play and the number of players they commit forwards. They got 18 points, by the way, which is a record. The last time they reached such a high tally, 19 points after 23 games in 2015, 2016. So it took them 10 games less to reach pretty much the same amount of points, and they are on course to be saved. It will be a great story. Soler already 6 goals season long from Juventus. I'm sure we'll see him back with the Bianconeri next season. And Milan, an extremely bad game against Dortmund. They were let down this time by the big players. Giroud missing the penalty, Theo Hernandez not being at his level, Calabria, even Magnan making a couple of mistakes. And yes, I think Milan, all in all, is not a worse team than Borussia Dortmund, but they underperformed massively in the head-to-head, and now it's going to be very difficult even to get into the Europa League. Not helped by the injuries, by the way, Milan. Thio picked up a muscular injury. That's the 25th injury of the season so far. 17 of them have been of muscular nature. The other one have been traumatic. So, I mean, there are question marks around the preparation, the physical preparation of the Milan players as well. But it means that they basically have no centre backs for this game. Thio is going to be out for 2 months. Chiara is going to be out. Kalulu is out. So it's only Tomori. Let's see who plays a centre back. Maybe Krunic, as they did against Borussia Dortmund. The positive note is that Chukwueze scored and had a good game. Jovic did well when he came on, hit the post, forced a save. But Milan are very, very inconsistent at home, despite having the best defense at home alongside Monza. For this one, they are going to be still without Giroud, Leao, Okafor. I think Frosinone are going to score, but I'm not sure Milan are going to drop points here. They might win it. I'm going to go for a both to score here. I like it, 199.
Mark is telling us, of course, reminding us what I said at the beginning, the poor away record for Frosinone. That's why he's taking Milan. They need the victory, and they are only 6 points away from Inter. So they are kind of in the race, in the Scudetto race still. Sunday games, Danny, Lecce, Bologna, Lecce, 5 points away from the relegation. Bologna, we've been saying this in our shows, very positive in European spots, beat Torino 2-0 away from home. They have a problem, no victories. They are drawing a lot. Also, Lecce drew the last 2 games. So perhaps this is the kind of game that we can go for a draw.
We could, because Bologna is true. I've got an issues of winning games back to back. They only lost 2 games this season, and they are 3 points behind Napoli in the Champions League. It will be a great story for Thiago Motta to qualify Bologna for a European competition after such a long time. I think more than 20, 25 years, perhaps. They got the first best defense in Serie A, which sometimes people forget to mention. Only 10 goals conceded. The game against Torino was strange. They won a strange game. Torino were perhaps on top for 55 minutes, but then Bologna capitalized on the mistakes. The first is a mistake from the goalkeeper. The second one is a goal in stoppage time because Torino didn't do the offside trap well. But Bologna confirmed that they can play good football, that they got good players, young players, they're very good on the ball. Zirkzee already contributed to 7 goals this season, scored his 5th goal of the season against Torino. Then you got the likes of Ferguson, of course, and Ndoye. So it's a team that will go there and try to win for sure. It's the third youngest side in Serie A, has to be said. So to praise the work that Thiago Motta has done. They're going to be without the top scorer of last season, Orsolini, who will come back in the new year. Lecce, good point at Verona. No wins in 9 games in all competition, by the way. So they are, not in a great moment, to be fair, but they got plus 5 points on Empoli, which unlikely are going to win at Genoa. So I think they're going to stay outside of the relegation zone for one more week. Won 3 home games, by the way, Lecce, and have 11 points in the domestic home table. I like the Asian handicap 0 for Bologna here, 187, bearing in mind it could be a draw, but you could sense better quality from Bologna. Maybe they could get with the 3 points.
Interesting indeed. The draw pays 3.35. Bologna favorite to win this game. 2.6. Fiorentina. Salernitana is the next game. Fiorentina 8th in a bad run. 4 defeats in the last 5 games. Lost to Milan. They have a problem scoring, Danny. They haven't been able to score in these last games, whereas Salernitana, miracle after Candreva scored the winner. Perhaps Lazio goalkeeper could have done a little bit more, and even without Memo Ochoa in that game.
Yeah, but they got a former French international in goal, which did well. And yeah, he's still gonna be without Memo Ochoa for a bit. They're unbeaten in 3 of the last 4 games in all competitions, Salernitana. So maybe they turned the corner. But winning the first league game after 13 matches is massive. So if I'm not wrong, only Almeria hasn't won a single league game in the top 5 leagues, because Lyon won the previous week. So it's an important achievement. They're still bottom of the table, by the way. Salernitana, with the worst defense, haven't kept a single clean sheet in Serie A, alongside Sassuolo. But Fiorentina only kept 2 clean sheets, so it could be a goals game. Remember last season, Salernitana drew a lot of games. There were a lot of draws, spectacular draws with goals. But it tells you that the story of Salernitana could have gone either way. If some of those draws were defeats, which, Salernitana came close to them, they could have been in the relegation battle for the second year running, and instead they were saved with a few games to spare. But let's not forget, last season, Boulaye Dia scored 14 goals. Candreva almost hit double figures. They need to repeat those numbers if Salernitana wants to have a hope to get saved. Fiorentina, they got issues against big teams. Once again, lose against a big team, despite having the ball most of the time. The second half created a lot of chances. Yes, it's true, Magnan made a fantastic save in the very last second of the game, but you would expect a little bit more against a Milan that was a little bit depleted. It's the 4th defeat for Fiorentina in the last 5 games. And they got problems scoring goals. Zola, only 1 goal in the league. Beltran still hasn't scored. So who's the striker? Who's the main man? Who's the man that's going to grab them the points? It cannot just be all Nico Gonzalez and Bonaventura. At home, at the Franchi, only 10 points at home, same as the away tally. So they're not doing that great. And they started the campaign really, really well. It was the best start in 7 or 8 years after 5 or 6 games. Then they're gone a little bit flat. Only 2 clean sheets in the last 9 games for Fiorentina, who, by the way, host Parma on Wednesday in Coppa Italia, so they got a tough schedule. Of course, they play tonight against Genk, then Salernitana, then Parma. They'll have to make a few rotations, so there are a few teams that at beginning of December they're going to be busier than others. Always take that into account. Both to score 187.
All right, Fiorentina, Salernitana with goals. In your opinion, a scary game of the weekend is Udinese, Verona. Verona in relegation spots, 9. Udinese very close to this bottom 3, only with 11 points, 1 point more than Empoli. We saw Udinese losing to Roma after some good results against Atalanta, against Milan. For Verona, I'm not sure, Danny, if it's positive, the draw they got against Lecce.
Well, the good thing is that they changed the tactics. They started with a 4-3-3 formation, more aggressive, applying more high press, and I think it helped. They recovered more balls up top. They scored the first goal thanks to a ball that was stolen and recovered and converted by Ndoye. And they need to carry now this form away from home, where away they've been really poor. They only scored 3 goals and are winless in 11 games. Verona last season were the worst team away from home, Verona as well. Udinese, on the other hand, the positive thing is that they are scoring a little bit more than what they used to do at the beginning of the season. They scored in the last 6 games, but they are only one win so far this season, and yes, they against Roma, they just crumbled after equalizing. They are the worst home side, only 4 points, no wins. In 2023 at home, they beat. Sorry, in 2023 overall, they beat Cremonese, Sampdoria twice, which are 2 teams that got relegated, and then they managed to beat Milan back in March 3-1, and that's it. So they only won 5 Milan, home and away. So they won. How much is it? 5 games in calendar year. It's nothing. It's incredible. Yet they're still in Serie A. Yet they're not gonna get relegated. That tells you sometimes quality of Serie A. I think it's going down. I mean, you can't have a team that wins only 5 games in a calendar year and still be absolutely fine. I can't see too many goals scored here. Maybe Udinese wins it by a low scoring margin, maybe 1 goal, 2-1, 1-0. I like the Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Verona, 191. So if it's a draw, you win. If Verona loses by only 1 goal margin, you're only losing half a stake.
You don't recommend us, no, to watch this Udinese Verona at 2 p.m. on a Sunday?
Well, it's gonna be a tough watch. I think you have to be really. I will watch it, but you have to be really committed to tune into the game at the Friuli, I would say.
Okay, if you are on the sofa watching this Udinese Verona, after
Let us
this
know.
you can enjoy the Sassuolo Roma. Perhaps is a better one with Sassuolo finally getting a victory. It was the first victory in 6 games, the one in Empoli. Roma, Dani, being positive lately. I really like the goal scored by Dybala and the combination with Lukaku, but they have also to win away if they want to qualify for the Champions League. They've only won in Sardinia, in Cagliari.
Yeah, that's the problem. And the away goal difference is still negative, -2. Against small teams, Roma knows how to win. That was the problem they had perhaps under Paulo Fonseca. They were not able to unlock tight defenses or teams that were playing with a low block. But under Mourinho, they become masters of winning, even if they don't play particularly well against small teams. And actually against Udinese, they were decent, I would say. The first goal is from a set piece, from Dybala crossing it for Mancini, and they're always dangerous in those situations. Last season they scored an awful lot of goals from set pieces, and then the second goal is a piece of beauty with Bove, Lukaku, and then the pass for Dybala to score the second. But credit to Mourinho for making attacking change in the second half, bringing on Bove, El Shaarawy, and Azmoun. Of course, El Shaarawy scored, and yes, Roma still dealing with a couple of injuries there, but they got enough, I think, to have the better of teams that are on paper worse than them. They failed to score in 3 of the last 5 matches, Roma, and they were all away. Inter, Slavia Praga, and Lazio, the derby, which was disappointing. But against a Sassuolo side that still hasn't kept a clean sheet, yet they managed to get the first win after 8 games with a 4-3 against Empoli. I think Roma can score a couple of goals. The problem is for Sassuolo is they need to score 4 to win. In fact, they conceded 24 goals so far this season. Only Cagliari, Empoli, and Salernitana have conceded more, but they got that Domenico Berardi, who is in an amazing form once again. If he missed the game, if he's not there, you can be absolutely sure Sassuolo are not going to win the game. With him, they are a different side. In fact, if you look at the beginning of the season, Sassuolo lost the first couple of games because Berardi was not available. I think Roma can win this one, and if they win, they will win by scoring a couple of goals. I'm gonna go both to score and over 2.5 goals together. Nice odds. That pays 3.
Well, Mourinho is gonna have a heart attack, Danny, if we see a lot of goals and both teams to score in this game. Tricky trip to Sassuolo, but if you want to play Champions League next season, you have to start thinking about winning away.
Of course.
The best game in this match day, of course, is Napoli-Inter, the previous champion, well, the current champion, Napoli against the top of the competition. Inter, it was a strange European week for both of them. Inter was a roller coaster from 3-0 down till 3-all in Dalus against Benfica. For Napoli, 2 games under Mazzarri, win in Bergamo against Atalanta, and I would say they played well at the Bernabeu, especially the first half. They were positive also when the African striker came in. Osimhen came in. So it was a positive at the end. Of course, you can lose at the Bernabeu. These things happen. Napoli had never beaten Real Madrid, Danny. But a good start for our friend Walter Mazzarri.
Yeah, no, I think they can take courage from the fact that they played an open game. They gave Real Madrid some troubles. They were not afraid to take the chances to shoot, to have a go. They were courageous, I think, and they were playing with more freedom. In the end, they lost deservedly. I think they deserve to lose, but it's also linked due to bad goalkeeping from Meret, who, by the way, also make a couple of very good saves. So overall, to go to Madrid and do a good performance for over 80 minutes is encouraging. Now they need to replicate that in the league. They won only 3 of the last 7, Napoli. The problem is the home form, only 7 points in the league, 3 defeats, no wins in the Champions League. By the way, in the Champions League, they can even afford a 1-0 defeat against Braga, and they will still be qualified for the goal difference. So they put themselves in a very, very good position. No clean sheets in the last 8 for Napoli. I think that was more concerning for them. The loss of Kim Min-jae has been immense to them, not only for the way they build the play from the back, but also his physicality, the ability to read the game, the anticipation, and having lost that is gonna be it's been big. Nathan hasn't been a good replacement so far. Now Napoli have also got the issue they got no left back because both Mario Rui and Oliveira are injured. Juan Jesus played on the Bernabeu, probably wasn't a great choice, not a left back, to play against Rodrigo.
It was not great.
No, I think their Mazzarri, I think it risked it a bit. Well, perhaps it's gonna be Zanoli, who's a left-footed player that's gonna play this one. But it seems that Mazzarri somehow has restored the harmony, the peace, the calmness, and the confidence with the players. And I think they're gonna approach this with confidence. For Inter, a bit of a crazy game in Lisbon. Inzaghi made 8 changes and gave opportunities to the reserves, who initially.
Alexis Sanchez is still around. I forgot
Alexis Sanchez is the second spell at Inter, because obviously Inter didn't want him, send it to Marseille, and then says, okay, well, we'll have you back. Why not? You are better than Correa anyway. I think yes, that's but that's Inter as well. They have to do a market with pretty much no resources, no money, so they need to be clever and try to find the opportunities. But to be fair to Sanchez, the first half didn't play very well against Benfica. Improved in the second half, scored a penalty. The positive news is that in the second half there was a reaction from Inter, so they carry on a good momentum going into the Napoli game. The first half was appalling, and it's concerning to see the players who haven't played so much, they are not ready. That was the opportunity for players like Aslani, for players like Sanchez, Arnautovic himself, Klaassen, just to grab hold of the spot in the team, and they didn't. They lost the opportunity. But in the second half, they did better. Then Inzaghi brought in Lautaro, Thuram, Di Marco, and Inter almost won the game. Barella hit the bar, so they need to beat Real Sociedad anyway to finish top, but we'll see the big guns this time against Napoli. Lautaro Martinez will start. By the way, 27 Serie A goals in 2023. The record for Inter is 28. Milito in 2012 and Vieri in 2001. And there are still a few games that can be played. I think Lautaro is gonna break the record. One last word on Inter. I was disappointed at the game against Juventus. I know they got a point. They're still top of the league. They play better than Juve. They made 751 passes in the game, produced very little, no shots on target in the second half. A missed opportunity for me. The caveat is that games after the international break are always a little bit tricky. But I think on this one, we are in for a better show. Over 2.5 goals, 182.
Goals and goals. Napoli, they've been so poor at home. They are fifth from bottom in the away standings with only 2 victories and 3 defeats. I was surprised, let's say, by the way they celebrated the goals. It looks like a family. It looks like Mazzarri has brought something in that dressing room that was missing, the way they celebrated the goals, both in Bergamo and at the Bernabeu. What a game, Napoli.
Kvaratskhelia gave a kiss to Mazzarri after the game in Bergamo. He kissed him on the cheek. So obviously there is something between them.
Tell me, guys, in the comments, who are you backing? Hussein is backing Inter, for instance. Emmanuel is going for both teams to score. Also, Dan is going for goals in this Napoli-Inter, I guess not from Alexis Sanchez. And last game for a Monday evening is a good one. Torino-Atalanta. Torino in the middle of the standings. At home only lost to Inter, and Atalanta playing a tough game in Europe against Sporting, lost to Napoli. At home, still very close to the European spots for Atalanta. This is a tough one to call, Dani.
Yeah, it is a tough one to call because Torino are in a difficult situation. They're only 6 points from relegation. And they lost a strange game against Bologna, really. They look in control for the first 55 minutes. Then they conceded very silly goals. And you look at the standings and you think, well, how can they be behind Monza and Frosinone, Torino, considering the squad they have? Some of the investments they made in the summer, signing Bellanova, Tameze, Zapata. Yes, there is a problem there. They don't create, they don't score many goals, really. I think they need more from the midfielders, especially Vlasic in the middle of the pitch. There is a bit of relief because some injury players are coming back. So, for example, now they got a proper back three. They don't have to use Tamez there anymore, although Tamez did well. He can play in midfield as well. Atalanta, on the other hand, they were unlucky for me against Napoli. They paid the price of taking risks. They like to carry the ball out from the defense. It was a mistake from Carnesecchi. They gifted the goal. But in the second half, they were good. They gave Napoli a good run for their money, really. And I think they were unlucky not to get at least a point. Away from home, won 3, lost 3, only 1 clean sheet in the last 5 trips. Torino need a reaction here. Let's see what Atalanta does today against Sporting Lisbon. You can check our video on the Europa League with Alvaro, of course. For me, is above to score here. 195.
All right, Dani, this is the end of our video. All the good things come to an end. But before, tell me your safe bet.
Milan Frosinone over 2 goals, 134.
And the ACCA.
So we go for another win after yesterday in the Champions League. Yes, it was a win in the Champions League ACCA. We go this time for Juventus Asian Handicap 0. Okay. Okay, let's do it again. Juventus Asian Handicap 0, Genoa Asian Handicap 0, Fiorentina Salernitana over 2.5 goals, Sassuolo Roma over 2.5 goals, total odds 684.
All right, Dani Fisichella gave us his tips, his knowledge for this new match day of Serie A. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you, Dani, for your input. Don't forget to watch this Udinese Verona, for instance. Place your bets, check the stats, and enjoy Serie A. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.